Okay, so I want y'all to picture two separate couples. They both go to the same destination. They both pay the same price. They both go the same month, but one is regretting their trip and wishing that they booked somewhere else. Hey y'all, my name's Klasshey and this is Checked In with the Roundtrees. And in today's video, we're going to talk about how to choose the right resort for you so you don't end up like the couple regretting their vacation. Okay, so just starting off, I feel like it's important for you to know that the all-inclusive market is actually really big. There are hundreds of resorts, in Mexico and the Caribbean. So there is a high risk that you could choose a resort that's not going to be the perfect fit for your vacation. And I feel like what a lot of people do is they'll look at the resort's website and they'll go, based off whatever the website has on there. So their photos. And that's just not the way you want to pick your resort because those photos are photoshopped, okay? Believe me, they're photoshopped. Now, some of these resorts, of course, they have beautiful sceneries and beaches and all of those things. But at the end of the day, you don't want to go off the website photos because they are photoshopped, right? They make the water look bluer than it is, or, they make the rooms look more appealing than they actually are in person. So please don't just go off the website photos. So that being said, I'm going to tell you what me and my husband kind of look for whenever we're picking a resort. Most times I pick the resorts for us and I just show him where we're going, but I'm going to tell you what I look for. So the first thing I want you to do before you even start looking at websites and resorts and any of that is I want you to think about who's actually going, right? So is it just going to be you? Are you going on a solo trip? Or are you going with a couple? So your spouse or, your partner, whatever. Are you going with family? Will there be kids on the trip? So you need to know that before you start looking at resorts, because that's going to play a part, obviously, in the resort that you can go to. Because as you know, kids can't go to adults only resorts. And then if it's only adults, then, why not book adult only anyway? Why would you want to go to a resort that's family friendly if there's no kids going? I just feel like you would have a better experience if you just did the whole adults only vibe. And just to give you a little tidbit of my experience at adults only resorts, it's going to be a more relaxed environment. There's not going to be a lot of noise, if you will, or a lot of chaos. The vibe of the resort is going to be more relaxed, more calm. And then something else that I would throw in there is what you can wear. Of course, you can wear whatever you want, wherever you go. But I like to think that at family resorts, you be a little more conservative when it comes to like your swimwear or your going out outfits, whatever. As opposed to adults only, you could be a little more free because everybody's an adult, right? So you don't have like kids running around. So that's something you can think about too. Now, what I'll say about the family resorts, if you are a family or there's going to be kids going on your trip, is that feel of the resort is fun, right? Like you're going to have the water slides, the kid pool areas, and just it's going to be more of a family, think like amusement park feel is kind of what I would compare it to. Not obviously on the same scale as a really big amusement park, but just that whole vibe, kids running around, playing, things like that. It's going to be more of that type of feel. Another thing I'll add to this section is that not all adults only resorts are the same, and they're not all going to give you the same vibe. So let's say if you are a group of women, maybe it's a bachelorette party or something like that. You also want to take that in consideration because, like I said, the resorts have different vibes. So some adults only resorts are more relaxed and more calming vibes. But then there are some that are really like party focused resorts, right? So you're going to have that more party atmosphere where they're going to be, blasting the music at the pool. The nightclub is going to be very busy at night, and it's just a different feel. Like, people came there to party. So you also need to think about like what type of trip you're taking along with that, if that makes sense. Because there is nothing worse than going on like an all girls trip or an all guys trip, whatever, and you guys pick a couples adult only resort because the vibe is just not going to be there. Like most people there are already coupled up, they're just relaxing, doing their whole romantic thing. And then it's just going to be you and your group of friends. So you want to make sure that you understand who is going on the trip. Now, something else I'll add just because I want to give you guys exactly what I do whenever I'm picking a resort is you really need to know who you are as a person. Like I know me as a person. I know the things that I like. I particularly prefer a more upscale doesn't have to be like high luxury or very expensive resort, but I do prefer not to go to the budget friendly resorts just because that's not what I'm looking for. You know, that's not my vibe. I prefer things to look a certain way and to feel a certain way. And then obviously the food is very important to me too. So usually in order to get those things, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money. So I would say know who you are as a person, know who the people are that are going on the trip with you, so that you guys aren't disappointed. Okay, so the next thing I would say is know what type of vacation that you want to have, right? I think there's 3 types of vacations that you could take, or 3 personalities, if you will, when it comes to taking a vacation. And I would say type 1 is the relaxer. So I think I'm this type. I think I fall into 2 categories, but this is definitely one. And that's the relaxer. And I feel like that's the person who they want to go on vacation. They just want to relax. They want to lay by the pool. They want to lay by the beach. They want to take it easy. So you don't really care about excursions. You don't care necessarily about the activities that the resort has to offer. Your main focus is, can you relax? What does the scenery look like? Are the beaches clean and clear? Is the water very blue? The pool setup, is it a decent sized pool? And do they have like the nice lounge chairs, or do they have, the cabanas poolside? Does the vibe put you in a relaxing state? I feel like that's the relaxer. Those are some of the things they care about most. And then I would also include in the relaxer type is the food is very important to you as well. So I feel like this traveler wants to make sure that the scenery and the vibe is going to allow them to relax. And they're going to have the space to do that. And then also they're going to be able to enjoy the food. Now, the second type I would say is the explorer. So this person, I feel like, you don't necessarily need to worry so much about what the resort has to offer because you don't plan to be there half the time anyway. So you're going to be on the resort for your meals. So when you wake up in the morning for breakfast, or when you get back for dinner, but you prefer to be off the resort, right? So you're going to be booking the excursions almost every day, booking tours, different things like that, really getting out and seeing the culture more than you are staying on the resort. I would say this person doesn't necessarily have to worry too much about what the resort has to offer because you won't be there most of the day anyway. And then also, if you are away on excursions throughout the day, you're probably going to eat somewhere locally while you're out as well. I would say this person could really save a lot of money based on the resort that they pick because you don't plan to be there anyway more than you would, going to bed at night and having to wake up and eat breakfast. But something I will add to, if you are the explorer, then you also really want to pay attention to the location that you're picking your resort, because a lot of times you can book a resort and not know that like the main excursions or the main attractions are like an hour and a half away from your resort. So if this is you, I would definitely pay attention to where you're actually booking the resort in regards to location, and where it's based, where it's based as far as where are the adventures and the excursions and all the things that you're going to do in that location. Now I would say type 3, I really fit this one, and I'm going to say this is the in-between traveler. And this is me most times. Sometimes I'll just want to go to the resort and I don't want to do anything. It's just going to be a relaxation trip for me. But 9 times out of 10, I feel like I'm in the in-between. So I'll say that's type 3. And basically that's the person who you want a combination of both, right? You want to do maybe one excursion for the week while you're there. So you'll spend that one day completely off the resort and just getting out and about in the destination. And then also you want those days to where you can relax by the beach or the pool, and then also enjoy what the resort has to offer too. And if you're this type of traveler, then you have the most flexibility because most mid-quality all-inclusive resorts are going to be able to service you. You're going to be able to, have decent food, enjoy the resort and the activities that they have, and then also get off of the resort. But you still need to pick the best resort for you. That's why, anytime you're thinking about picking a resort, there's many things to think about, kind of like what we're talking about in this video. Know who you are, know the kind of things that you like. What do you want to do while you're on vacation? All of those things play a role into picking the perfect resort. Now, the next thing I'll say is be honest about your budget and what your budget can actually afford. And I'm actually making a video about how to budget for a resort all-inclusive vacation. I'll leave the link in the description so you guys can watch it whenever that video is up as well. Now, I feel like the budget piece is really important because a lot of first-time all-inclusive travelers, they don't get this, right? And so they're disappointed when they get to their destination because they didn't take the budget into consideration. Now, just like anything in life, guys, you pay for what you get, right? So if you are selecting a more budget-friendly all-inclusive resort, you're going to get a more budget-friendly experience. Now, some resorts have outliers, but I'm talking there's a wide range when it comes to prices for all-inclusives. So if you're talking like the bottom level as far as budget, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have good food, right? You might even be worried about the health of the food and your health. So there are different tiers. And like I said, it can get very, 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 very low end budget. But the experience is just not going to be worth your time. One, because you got to think you're paying for a flight to get out there, right? This is not a cruise, so we have to book a flight to get to the destination. So you don't want to waste your money, and you don't want to get there and have a bad experience because you didn't understand like the budget or the pricing of these resorts. Just to give you some perspective, there are some resorts, so we can go from like $150 a person per night to well over $1,000 per night when it comes to all-inclusive resorts and just the variety that is out there. So I'm just going to give you my experience and what I've seen. I would say anywhere from like $150 to $200 a person is going to be more of your budget-friendly all-inclusive resorts, right? So they're going to have a pool. You'll have access to the beach. Of course, your meals and drinks are going to be included, but the drinks are probably going to be, you know, the well drinks. It's not going to be premium liquor or anything like that. And the food hopefully is okay, right? Something that you can eat throughout the week. Something else I would say is really important when it comes to this category is if the beach is really important to you, then I would actually look at live photos of the beach, right? So you can go to TripAdvisor to see updated photos, like not what the website is going to show you. You want to see what it actually looks like because sometimes the beaches are, you know, unkept or, you know, it's just not your vibe, right? Maybe the water isn't really blue and maybe it's that dark, murky color, or, you know, maybe sargassum is really bad at that particular resort. So you want to make sure that you're checking out those things as well. And I actually do that for every resort. So no matter what tier you're going to stay in, I would always say go and check live photos and footage so you know exactly what the resort looks like whenever you're going to be there. Now, the next tier up, I would say $250 to $400 a night per person. That's going to give you a much better experience, and you can really tell the difference from this tier and then the one we talked about in the beginning. And in this category, I would say these are the Secrets, the Excellence, the Hyatts. I feel like they fall in this realm. And you're just going to get a better experience, right? So you're going to have the option for those premium drinks. The food quality is going to be a little bit better, obviously. And then also, of course, the resort is just going to look nicer. The rooms are going to be nicer. The decor, all of those things, it's just going to be a better overall feel as opposed to the budget friendly. So the last advice I would give you is to, if you can, jump from that low budget, the $150 that we talked about, to $200 a person, to the mid tier, because it's going to give you a fundamentally different experience and it's just going to be better overall for you, right? You're already saving the money to go on vacation. Just save a little longer, push your trip out a little farther, and really book a trip that you're going to enjoy. Because I've been to resorts to where, and I didn't select these resorts, so I'll say that I did not select this particular resort, but I actually went for a wedding. I was a guest of a guest, and I did not enjoy my experience. I was ready to go home the whole time because I tell you guys all the time, I don't drink, so I enjoy food. I want to relax. I want to enjoy the food, and I did not enjoy the food. I didn't enjoy the scenery. There was seaweed everywhere. It had an awful smell, and I don't even think it was the seaweed giving off this smell. I think it was something with the plumbing. Like every morning, it was like sewer smell. It was awful. And I was ready to go home the whole trip. I was just ready to go. I ended up booking a excursion actually to get off that island and spend the day somewhere else. And that was the best day I had the whole trip. So I would say save a little longer. And like I told you earlier, I do have a video that's coming out about how to budget for an all-inclusive vacation so that there's no surprises, and then you can really, get to enjoy a all-inclusive vacation the right way and not feel like you have to like pinch pennies and not really enjoy the experience while you're there. Okay, so if you stayed to the end of this video, I'm going to give you a few more things that I do to make sure that I pick the perfect resort. So number one, I would say go to Google Maps and pull up the satellite view, because that's going to be able to show you exactly what the beach at that resort looks like. It's going to show you the size of it. If there's anything like impeding the swimming area, all of that, you're going to be able to see the layout of the actual beach at that particular resort. Another little hidden tip that I like to do is, I kind of mentioned it earlier, is to check for the sargassum at whatever resort you're planning to stay in. And that's just seaweed. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's really just seaweed. For whatever reason, in the last few years, especially in Mexico, the sargassum has been really bad. So I would say make sure that you are researching that particular resort wherever you're thinking about, to make sure that that's not an issue if the beach is important to you. And just something that I'll share, because, I'm giving you my insider tips here, is that when I go to Mexico, a lot of times I choose to stay in either Playa Mujeres or Costa Mujeres, out in that region, because they don't have the issue of the seaweed. At least as far as I know, I haven't experienced it. And as far as I know, I could be wrong. Correct me in the comments if you know more than me and I'm saying this wrong. But I believe it's because the island of Isla Mujeres kind of sits in front of that part of Mexico. I usually try to book in Playa Mujeres or Costa Mujeres because I'm a relaxer, remember? So it is kind of out of the way as far as where all the tourists are and like all the excursions and all of those things. Is more to the outskirts. So you also have to take that in consideration. But that's what I prefer. So that's why I book out there. Okay, so another thing, there's so many things I could tell y'all, but I feel like I have to tell you this, especially if you're a first time all-inclusive traveler, because this would really upset me if I didn't know. Yes, the food is included because it's all inclusive, but not every resort has room service, and not every room service is the same. Like some resort room service could be like sandwiches and little finger foods that's, like carrots and vegetables, and not like true meals. So if the food is important to you and you're a late night snacker like me, then that's also something that you need to research and make sure that you understand about the resort you're going to go to, because not all the food is equal when it comes to room service. Okay, I'm just going to leave y'all with two more because I don't want this video to get too long, but there's just so many things that, I could tell you as a first time traveler going to an all-inclusive resort. But the other thing I'll say is be cautious of the size of the resort. So make sure that you are paying attention to the actual scale of the resort, because if you are somebody who has a challenge getting around, maybe you have some mobility issues. I'm also a physical therapist assistant, in my full-time job. I'll try not to bring my job into this too much, but if you are somebody who, let's say, uses a walker or a cane or anything like that, then make sure that or somebody in your group is going to be, having a hard time getting around. Make sure you are paying attention to the scale of the resort, because at some resorts, the buildings can be spread out quite a bit, and there are long walks to get to like the lobby or the pool or just different places that they have on the resort. And if you are set on that type of resort and you have some type of physical disability, then just make sure that you are researching to arrange the accommodations that you're going to need, and that resort can accommodate you so that you or your friends and family can have a good experience. Now, lastly, what I'll give you is to use TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is going to be your best friend because I enjoy using it because of the reviews. When you go on there, you can see tons of people who have recently been there, even people who've been there years ago, but it's updated, right? It stays current. And then I also like that you get to see real and live photos of people who are actually there. So they do have the, website photos on there, or the resort photos, the Photoshop ones. But you can click on real people to see their reviews, to see their experiences. And that's where you're going to find that insider information, right? So is there construction going on at the resort that they never mentioned, right? You're able to read the reviews and see what's actually going on right now before you're about to go on that trip. So you're not shocked by anything. And they'll talk about everything, right? So I feel like definitely go on TripAdvisor and read the reviews. Okay, this will be the last thing so the video isn't too long. But I would say pay attention to when you're going on vacation, because obviously, some people do go in hurricane season. I've tried it once or twice, but I try to stay away from hurricane season. But I will say you're going to get the best deals if you travel in hurricane season. But make sure you get travel insurance because obviously there could be a hurricane and you won't be able to go on your trip. So make sure that you are getting travel insurance, but pay attention to when you're going, right? So if you don't want big crowds, don't go during spring break. Me personally, I like to travel in like December. Technically, I like to travel anytime I can, let's be honest. So this video would just be way too long if I sit here and told you everything you needed to know as a first-time all-inclusive traveler. So what I'm going to do is give you a printout or a PDF of everything that you need to know. All the little tips and tricks that I use to pick resorts whenever I'm going on vacation. So what I'll tell you to do is use the email below in the description. Send me an email and let me know that you want the full printout of the PDF for All-Inclusive Travelers Guide, and I'll send it to you, okay? Okay, so that's all I have for you for today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Checked in with the Roundtrees, ocean breeze and palm tree